We're really just working to make the world of Web3 easier for everyone. That's kind of the big North Star that we have, so that you can ultimately utilize your Web3 assets and their returns in the real world. This data needs to be safely protected and backed up. And that's where Vishwa uses zero gravity for our key value storage. So I come from the world of traditional finance before I went to school, for grad school at Stanford. And before that, I was working in private equity, family offices, buy-side investment banking for wealthy individuals across the Americas. And in that kind of responsibility, I was also focused, and I had a couple of initiatives in Central and South America in regards to financial inclusion, which really gave me a lot of propriety and ownership with regards to what we can do from our fortunate positions to help the underserved. And then I went to Stanford for grad school, and I started a company with my fellow classmates, and I could even call him a mentor, Michael Heinrich. And we worked together on that for multiple years, and then exited the company. And with our close relationship, I got close to one of his advisee companies, and that is Vishwa. And then Vishwa, as the company itself, we're really just working to make the world of Web3 easier for everyone. And Vishwa, in terms, it's in Sanskrit, it means universe, or all encompassing. And what we're trying to do is to bring trust minimized real yield and payments to the whole ecosystem. So that's why we call ourselves the first PayFi channel to real world assets. And that's essentially what we're trying to do. And this has some of the components of financial inclusion in it. So I'm sure we'll discuss some of that at some point in this interview. Good question. So Hyperstate Channel is just a Web3 name for a simple concept. It's really a vessel through which we allow originally only Bitcoin holders, but it's essentially a tool for any crypto holders to leverage the value of their asset without having to surrender it to any centralized third party. And in that way, they'll gain exposure to financial returns, and more importantly, real yield. That's kind of the big North Star that we have, so that you can ultimately utilize your Web3 assets and their returns in the real world. And it's a vessel because really what you do is bring your asset to our protocol, and will allow you to enter this marketplace where you can find multiple yield opportunities to fit your own risk appetite. And more importantly, you're going to do this in a decentralized platform, which is something that is not readily available in the ecosystem right now. So it's just a Web3 name for the simple concept of of giving you exposure to multiple yield opportunities and real world assets and payments. So as you might imagine, in our protocol, a very crucial component is safety. Our users want their assets to remain untouched in their own UTXO, and in that way leverage Bitcoin layers 1 security without any custodians involved in the process. That's kind of a big hurdle that we elucidated in our customer discovery conversations. And what we do is we guarantee that our users' information and assets are safe through this decentralization that I'm discussing, and we're basically distributing the authority across network nodes and removing trust dependencies. And we're using cryptographic techniques, ensuring that data integrity and authenticity are kept without any external verification. But as you might kind of understand, this data needs to be safely protected and backed up. And that's where Vishwa uses zero gravity for our key value storage. They are basically or zero gravity is our data backup, and therefore our redundancy layer, which is very critical when you're handling people's assets in any financial scenario, which is why this is so critical for our protocol security and that of our users. So we really depend on zero gravity for supporting our security and our backup. So I didn't start in zero gravity. I was in Michael's previous startup. We started together. I was part of the founding team with Michael. So we worked together since Stanford. We met ourselves in our classes at Stanford. We were part of the same fellowship of Threshold Ventures, which is only selects 10 grad school students to participate in an entrepreneurship fellowship program, now hosted by Threshold Ventures. And that's where we became really close. So Michael and I now go more than 10 years back. And then we started a company together and worked diligently growing that company. And then Michael moved to zero gravity, and I moved later on into the ecosystem, and through him met the Vishwa team, and that's where I'm focused right now. So as I spoke broadly before, in Vishwa's technical framework, we have to safeguard our users' assets with utmost security. Prior to that, we must detail the asset ownership. And one critical component to do so is the asset's pre-image. And in our trusted and in our decentralized protocol, this pre-image is sharded to guarantee that decentralization so that there are no trust dependencies. And this information demands high security and timeliness, which implies it needs to be stored with multiple backups somewhere we trust. And on that specific point, I believe zero gravity's technology provides the strongest support to Vishwa and its users. Yeah, so we've battled with that type of conundrum, really. Are we just building a protocol, or just we building an interface? And the answer is we're more focused on the technology side, building on the protocol. without leaving behind the business side. And that's one of the big lessons that we've received from Michael. What we do in order to grow adoption is that we're able to attract the owners of close to 80% of the supply of Bitcoin that is out there, that currently lies in cold wallets, providing no liquidity or to the market or any returns from the market to the holder. And in today's dollars, that's over $1 trillion in value that is simply parked in what I call a safety deposit box. That's an old reference, but it's very fitting. What we can do is we can now offer these asset holders with secure investment avenues, risk-free returns, and exposure to real-world assets, which is not something that they have right now, and that from our customer discovery, we've learned that they need. There are obviously different segments in terms of our customers, but we really understand that they have this Bitcoin that, yes, of course, it's appreciating in value, but they have no real avenues for consumption with it, or it's really expensive. And we are able to provide that in a truly non-custodial way, trust minimized way, where they don't have to worry about surrendering this to a centralized party or to a black box solution where they have no agency. What this will actually provide is we will give a significant increase or provide a significant increase in the TVL that will run through PayFi and through DeFi, which we know are competitive arenas. But via our aggregator marketplace, we'll provide wins to all of these participants, whether they're investors or asset holders or financial yield protocols. We're providing wins to all of them. We're bringing in Bitcoin TVL that is safely kept in the owner's UTXO and allowing them to leverage that value and provide wins to the participants in the DeFi and the PayFi protocols, and ultimately allowing for the payments or consumption of that value, which is really what I was focused on in my prior life before Web3 in traditional finance, which was financial inclusion, because I know that financial inclusion is critical to provide for livelihood of the underserved, right? When they're hindered from this economic growth and their livelihood, it's something that I witnessed from my past life, and now I can see that is actually translating into the Web3 economy. And this new economy needs to allow the participation of everyone. Basically 7% of global population owns cryptocurrency. We need to help that grow and basically provide for the total global population. So that's why we're focused on allowing this Web3 and tokenized value to find its way into everyone's daily lives. I think I'm gonna kind of allude to one of my previous answers. As I said, we confronted what we considered a crossroad in our development during the incubation process. And that was the question of, are we focusing on building our protocol or competing as one of the many interface layers that are out there in the market? And we came to the realization, and that was that we could prioritize either one of them, but they are in our North Star, not mutually exclusive, but actually complementary. So as such, we decided to devote our tech efforts into becoming the first trust minimized real yield and payment gateway to real world assets. And we are razor focused in building our protocol through state of the art tech, and have devoted our resources to that. But again, without forgetting our interface layer, and dedicated many of our business efforts to creating and deepening partnerships with reputable yield providers that will only grow our own brand, right? So we're making really strategic partnerships with the yield providers that will participate within our marketplace and provide multiple opportunities for our users to invest their value and grow their assets. So this means that in our roadmap, we have our MVP to launch front and foremost, while we build our aggregator marketplace partnerships in tandem with this process. So we found ourselves trying to decide between just building a protocol or having an interface. And yes, there's a big priority on our tech development into the protocol, but part of our solution also includes strategic partnerships. So that's why there is a really symbiotic relationship between our tech team and our business teams. Okay, so for Professor Muriel Medard, she has basically confirmed that what we're doing through Vishwa is really building the rails through which the global financial system should run, right? We've kind of tried to get close to the principles of blockchain, and she has said that by Vishwa building this fully decentralized community, we're actually providing that global vision of financial inclusion to everyone. So that's been very valuable to hear. She has also provided us with very important insight in terms of our user flow. She's an expert in optimization in Web3, and she has basically allowed us to block our users' assets on chain within one block instead of the market standard of 3 blocks. So it's really been a really good partnership with her, and as an advisor, she has provided a lot for our team. And in terms of Michael, he has been very, very critical in guiding our solution and our business sense. We have leveraged his mentorship, as I mentioned before, to build our protocol's business model and foci. And he has also allowed us to connect with other founders and solutions in a way that we wouldn't have been able to do so if we were not connected through him. So it's really a really valuable stepping stone for us in the Web3 ecosystem. I think his best advice has been to not forget about making our solution and our message as simple and digestible as possible, to demonstrate how we can transform our space, not in one order of magnitude, but more like 100-fold, right? So it's a really fine line into being able to build a highly technical solution, but also transmitting it in a very simple and digestible way. And that's what Michael has allowed us to produce. Okay, so I think the most valuable resource we leveraged from the incubation program was the very high stepping stone that the program's leaders provide to the projects. And I'm gonna mention specific names here, but KJ is particularly noteworthy in how he provides ample exposure to the teams and the incubees by sharing his network connections. And also particularly Dafu is extremely generous and supporting in including our project in his promotion activities and campus tours and all his roadshows that he participates in without asking much in return. So it's really valuable to see that type of closeness with the incubator leaders. So this generosity is something that we don't take for granted and that we won't forget. And hopefully once we become the major player in the Web3 ecosystem that we are expecting to become, we'll be able to support their own efforts in growing the value of the companies that go through the incubation process. Yeah, I think we were kind of a team with a lot of expertise moving into the incubation process, but we had hurdles in transmitting the message. So I think the incubator allowed us to build confidence in our solution to this massive problem of centralization and custody and lack of transparency in the world of Web3, which is actually in direct opposition to the principles of the ecosystem, right? So through different conversations with our mentors and the guidance from the incubator's leaders, we were able to not only trust our instincts, but also sharpen our message so that we could confidently talk to the first, the second, the third, and all the other multiple subsequent investor meetings that we've had. And this type of trust is very critical, not only in our conversations with potential investors, but also in our partnership discussions. As I mentioned, we have that sort of double-edged sword where we need to find a common ground between the supply and the demand. So it's really helped us in our customer acquisition strategy by showcasing the trust minimized nature of our solution, but also be able to move the value from those customers into the ecosystem and talk to ecosystem players that provide yields and let them know that we're bringing this TVL to them, and they've been unsolicitedly also happy to share their carry with us. So it's been incredibly valuable to get the help from the incubator in building that trust to help us tackle the uncertainties that this market is bringing to us and that we're hoping to solve. Oh, there's plenty, because we're working really hard and we're super devoted, working till late in the evenings and early mornings. So I think one very, very important one that is coming in the next few days is that we're moving swiftly from our prototype to our MVP. And we're expecting that MVP in the next few days. So it's going to be out before the end of the year, which is a moment of huge pride for the whole team. But also it implies that within a quarter's time, we'll have the mainnet version of our solution ready to go public. So that is our first priority, and that is our product launch, and it's happening right now. So it's really something that we're really excited to bring on. But upon the release of our solution, we're also expecting an exponential increase in our traction, growing from thousands of Bitcoin locked to tens of thousands of Bitcoin locked, and providing value into our solution. So with that, and granted the continuity in the market's conditions, we would be preparing for a TGE somewhere along the early end of the second half of 2025. So those are things that we're really focused on. And of course that comes with a ton of challenges in between, but I think it's those product launches and TGEs that are what we're mainly focused for the next year.